Hello, Arts and Design. So, pasensya na kayo kung na-interrupt yung discussions natin. Sobrang dami nangyari ng mga nakaraang week. And let me share with you a video of our presentation. This will guide you with your data collection procedure. So, basically, you're done with your proposal. And now you are expected to collect your data, supposedly starting last week. That's why I was asking you to finalize your research instruments. So basically, your data collection procedure should have 4 stages. The first stage is the preparation of your research instrument, which is what you were doing last week. So for your preparation of instrument, you have to undergo 2 stages. The first one is the construction of your instrument, and the second one is the validation. So for the construction, for those who will be conducting surveys, make sure that your survey items or items of your questionnaires have basis of your concepts that would reflect in your review of related literature. While for those who will be conducting qualitative research, make sure that your interview questions would follow your statement of the problems. So for those who will be conducting qualitative research, please refer to the sample instruments in the guidance office. There were binded researches out there. So yeah, so to check if the contents of your instruments, whether it is survey or interview protocol, just check if your questions reflect the questions that you have indicated in your statement of the problem. So after the construction, there is the validation stage. So there will be 2 people who will validate your instruments. The first one is me as your research advisor, and the other one is another expert who you think is expert from the field or have the knowledge and skill to identify if your instrument is appropriate for your participants. So after that person, for example, me as your research teacher, you asked me to check your paper or your instrument, and I gave you a feedback. And after you edit your instrument using my feedback, you asked another teacher to validate your instrument. For example, you asked Ma'am Rema. So you have shown her your instrument and she has given you some feedback. So pagka-edit nyo dun sa feedback according to Ma'am Rema, this is how I will know that it is already validated. Ayan. So you should produce this kind of certification that will say that the instrument have been validated by an expert. So just edit the wordings of this instrument. For example, this is to certify that the research instrument for the research project entitled, then your title, in partial fulfillment for the requirements for research project has been validated using the undersigned expertise and experience in the field of, for example, humanities. then you will indicate the name of Ma'am Rema as the validator, and then she has to sign it as a way of saying that she has really validated your instrument. Aside from that, you also have to give Ma'am Rema, if she's your validator, a certificate that is just like this. So it's a certificate of appreciation that says that Ma'am Rema gave you a service to validate your data. So you just have to edit the contents. So, for example, certificate of appreciation for Ma'am Rema for sharing her knowledge as expert validator of the research instrument for the research entitled, then your title. So, ibabaguhin nyo lang yung information. So, that's it for the validation. Oh, wait. After the validation of expert, you have to conduct a sample administration of your instrument. So if you will be conducting quantitative research, you have to try your instrument to at least 15 students of the same characteristic of your population. For example, your population, target population or target participants are HUME students. So you have to try out your survey to STEM students because they have the same characteristics as HUME students, but they are not within your population. But if you will be conducting qualitative research using interview protocol, you only have to try out your interview for only one student. So what is the use of the trial administration? So for survey, it will be under statistical validation. So you have to encode in Excel the result of your trial from 15 students. Then you have to check out how long the students did answer your instruments, plus if there are questions from the participants, you also have to take notes. If there are some words that they have difficulty in understanding, you have to rephrase those words, or you have to be ready to explain those words. While for interview, you just have to check the response of your interviewee. So for example, you have to interview arts and design students. So a similar population will be, for example, GAS students. So you have to choose only one GAS student. So you could try out your instrument. So yun. So again, after validation of expert, you have to try your survey or questionnaire to 15 respondents. While if you will be conducting interview, you just have to try it to only one. So if after trying out the questionnaire to 15 students, you have to encode the results. Okay, so that's for the first stage. For the second stage, you have to request permission from the principal for the conduct of your study. So this one you have already done. I believe your president have already submitted the letter of permission to Dr. Lubigan's secretary, and you just have to retrieve your copy of the letter. So after retrieving the copy of the letter, please distribute a copy to each of the groups so that you could show them to teachers in case you will be starting your interview or service. The next one is asking for the permission of the participant. So how would you do this? Of course, you have to do this verbally and explain the process of your research to your participants. Aside from that, there should also be a portion of your instrument that um, indicates that they will be asking you will be asking their time for your research. Okay, so how would I know if you ask the permission of our principal? So I would know if you already have the letter of endorsement from Sir Toto after you gave him the letter of permission. So for the permission of the participants, I would know that you asked their permission if you have this signed consent form. So in your instrument, whether it is survey or interview, you have to include a portion that would allow the participants to give them give their consent. So for example, in this part, I have indicated the title of the research, then consent. I have read this consent form and have been given the opportunity to ask questions. I give my consent to participate in this study, and they have to include their signature and date. Their contact number as well, but this is optional. So you have to write the principal investigator's name and signature. So this should be your group leader and their contact number and email address. So why? You have to indicate that there is a way to contact you in case they have questions about your research and in case they are interested to know the results of your research. So again, you have to include a portion of your instrument that would indicate this consent. Yan. Okay, so now that you're done with the permission of the principal and your participants, we will now go to data collection procedure. And I hope you would finish this procedure this week. Okay, so you have to indicate in this portion the way in which you would collect the data. So if you will be conducting interviews, just indicate you will be conducting interview. But if you will be conducting quantitative research, please indicate that you will be conducting survey questionnaire. And lastly, data analysis. So what are the ways in which you would analyze your data? For qualitative research, you only have to do open coding. But for quantitative research, you have to use statistical treatments. So you have to indicate in this portion the statistical treatments that you will be using for your research. Okay. So in case you have to review this PowerPoint presentation, you may download it in Learner's Niche. And you could message me in Facebook if you have questions. However, I don't promise that I could reply right away because I will be in a training for the whole week. But I'll do my best to answer your questions. Plus, I will be answering your emails tomorrow. Thank you.